everyone for coming out. I know it's been a while, but we want to get these coaches in front of you guys. And Coach, these are kind of the beat media that see you almost every day.
Awesome.
I'll start with the first one to get you going, and then we can open up. Just how's your time in Boulder been so far?
It's been great. You finally got the family settled out here a couple weeks ago, and unpacking boxes and getting to know the kids and teaching like crazy, and enjoying our time and getting to know the lay of the land. I can make it to the facility now without using GPS, so I think I'm making strides.
And then if you can just introduce yourselves for them the first time, guys.
Hi, Coach. Nikki Edwards with CU Sports Report. It's not often when a head coach takes an offensive coordinating position. Why did you decide to take this job?
Yeah, I mean, it was a tremendous opportunity. I knew there'd be great things that were happening here, and the work that we had done at Kent State was second to none, and really proud of what we did there. But knew that for what I was after, what the opportunity was for my family, and everything that this could provide for my family now and in the future, is something I had to jump at.
Hey, Coach. Brian Howell from the Boulder Daily Camera. Coach Sanders has mentioned that you guys didn't have a relationship before, but there was people that you knew.
Mm-hmm.
Can you kind of walk us through that process of like how you got connected to Coach Sanders and wound up here?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's probably kind of like any sort of networking opportunity or the way you guys kind of got your jobs and everything, right? There's a connection of people that you trust on each side, and there was a guy that I played with that connected us and kind of knew members of this staff that we're coming with and opened up those doors and started the conversation. And as we were going through it, there was a lot of different moving pieces that as it came together, making sure that for both of us, it was going to be exactly what we were looking for, and it was, so it came together, and it's been a great marriage, so to speak, ever since we've been rocking and rolling here, and excited to do the work together and to do what we need to do.
Jack Carlo, Buffalo's Wire. Kind of going off of Nikki's question there, I was wondering if you just talk about your time at Kent State and just what you learned there, how you can kind of apply some of those lessons to CU.
Yeah, I mean, you learn when you sit down in that head coach's chair. You got no idea what that role is until you're in that chair. You think you have some answers, and you don't. And luckily, I got some great mentors that I've been able to reach out to and get some more insight from. Got scarred from those things in a good way, right? I'm proud of those scars, proud of what I learned, proud of how we had to continue to adapt and change and evolve and not just be stagnant, right, with what we were doing, but we continue to grow and learned a lot about that job and how we had to shape that. And as we get here, learning a lot about this opportunity and how we're going to have to build it and how we're going to have to grow it, so that we can get the immediate results that we're after.
Hi, Coach. Adam Munster-Tiger from 24/7 Sports. You made it no secret that you want to have a fast-tempo offense here. What are the keys when you're implementing an up-tempo scheme that help make that efficient?
Yeah, great teachers, right? We're fortunate to have a great staff to where you can empower your staff to know the concepts, to understand the details and the techniques, so that they can be taught in a very clean and concise manner so that the kids can learn it, so that they can go apply and, think fast, know fast, do fast. We need high football IQ guys that are confident in what they're seeing and what they're doing so that they can, respond with discipline in the right way so that we can go execute some base level things that are really, really high level and get a ton of reps doing that so that over the long haul, whatever problems the defense show us, that we know the solutions and we can respond accordingly.
Tony Casolo, Buffalo's Wire. Traditionally, CU's run the ball a lot, had some great ground games. How do you see your stable of running backs using the ground game to get that up-tempo attack going?
Yeah, I mean, there's some Badger blood in me from where I played, right? And the years that we were at Kent State in 2021, we were the number 3 rushing team in the country, only behind 2 service academies. So we're going to run the football. When it comes to our offensive identity, we got to control what we can control. We have to own the line of scrimmage, and we have to maximize our calculated shots. So we need to establish a ground game. Without that, you become too one-dimensional, and you need to be able to have a punch and a counter punch. So we got to be able to throw it. We got to be able to run it. To say what we have in the stable right now, I don't know, because I haven't seen these kids play football just yet. I haven't watched any tape because I don't know what they were coached a year ago, and I want everyone to have a clean slate. I think it's one of the best things that we all can get at times is a fresh start and a clean slate, and I want to be able to evaluate our guys based off of what we're coaching them to do and then how they're going to perform based off of what we're asking them to do, and then we'll figure out how those pieces come together.
Hey, Sean, Tyler King, Denver Gazette. You brought Coach Boyle with you from Kent State. Why was that so important to you, and kind of what does he bring to your offense on coaching the offensive line group?
Yeah, I mean, again, it goes back to the offensive philosophy, right, of controlling the line of scrimmage, and he's a guy that I've done great work with for the past 5 years. We've been in the foxhole together, and just in terms of implementing what we're going to do, to be able to have someone that already knows it from, the front 7 perspective, so that him, and our tight ends and Coach Brewster and Coach Flea, they can go off and kind of work in their silo a little bit, whether it be run or pass pro, and then I can work, with Coach Brett and the throw game, and we can get those things implemented. It just helps expedite the learning process. And again, also having someone, again, that, when you're coming into a situation where you're making new bonds and you're figuring out, the working relationships of how everything's going to go, to have someone up front. I mean, those big guys don't get enough, and you guys are going to get to meet Coach Boyle, and he ain't going to want to talk very much at all, but those guys make it go. You win the game up front in the trenches with the O-line and the D-line. I know everyone else gets the stats and everyone else gets the headlines, but if you don't keep those ball carriers clean, you don't keep the quarterback upright, all the X's and the O's don't matter whatsoever. So it was critical to have him with me here on this journey.
Hey, Coach. Jake Schwan, it's DMVR Sports right here.
There you are. What's up?
I'm curious, just who influenced your style of offense, either teams or coaches in your career?
Yeah, I was very fortunate to be around some really, really good coaches, right? Played for Coach Alvarez. Coach Paul Christ was my position coach for a couple of years, and then, under Coach Bielema as well at Wisconsin. And then for 6 years being with Coach Babers and the tempo style of play, and then kind of taking some of my own ideas and different factors of it all. But, the organizational leadership aspect of Coach Alvarez, I lean very heavily on him as a head coach, and now guiding and leading, the offensive side of the ball here. There's a lot of structural things that we do that are very similar to what he did. Coach Chris, from a game planning and play caller perspective, I knew I wasn't a very good player. You guys can look at the stats for all that. So I really picked his brain when we were together, because this is something I knew that I wanted to get into, and was fortunate for him to share some wisdom. And then, I'm not here if it's not for Coach Babers. He took me into his office and, hired me because I was a Chicagoland guy, and he was at Eastern Illinois, and again, saw something enough in me that he wanted to teach me. And from being with him as slot receiver coach to having all the receivers, and then to ultimately getting the opportunity to call it and coach the quarterbacks. And again, his tutelage, his guidance, and his perspective on life, has led me to this spot.
Hey, Coach Ryan Koenigsberg, DNVR Sports. I'm curious what you think the biggest difference is between a successful and an unsuccessful play caller.
It's a good question. I would say knowing your people, right? Knowing what's around you. I think at times we probably get a little bit too rigid as play callers to say, hey, this is who we are, this is what we're going to be, and this is how we go about it, as opposed to knowing and assessing what you have and how you need to play it. Because, again, at the end of the day, we can grab markers and go on these boards, and I feel pretty confident in X's and O and anyone that's in this room, right? But it's about the players. They make plays. Whatever we draw up, I mean, an expo marker is probably, 5 cents or whatever it is, right? That's the worth of what it is. But players make plays, so you got to know your players, and you got to put them in a position to be successful, and you got to be able to know where they're at mentally and what they feel confident in doing, so that when you're in a defining moment where you got to have a play, you're able to play to their strengths, and they feel confident in doing it and executing it.
Over here in the corner. Coach Romy Bean, CBS Colorado. You talked about that offensive identity, but you got clean slate, haven't seen a lot of these players. So what are the keys to really fast-tracking that offensive identity so you're ready to roll by the fall?
Yeah, I mean, again, just being clear and concise with our standards and expectations are, right? We want to define everything as best we can, and that's probably some of my journalism major coming out, to where words matter to me, so that when we're talking about a technique or a fundamental or a mindset, we're aligned and we're thinking about it through the same lens, and that there's not some guys going one direction or some guys going the other direction. So, there's going to be an attitude and a temperament and a mindset and a demeanor every single time we step inside the white lines of what the clear expectations are. And hopefully when y'all come and see practice, right, what it looks like, what it feels like, what it sounds like, and what you guys experience aligns with what we're saying. Otherwise, we got to do a better job coaching.
Was it a difficult decision to part ways with Kent State? What was kind of your processes and assessing what you want to do next after talking with Coach Prime?
It was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made. And, for anyone that was in that team meeting when I told my team at Kent, I mean, that was rough, and I wear my emotions on my sleeve, and it was very, very hard to do. And there was a lot of layers that went into the ultimate decision, but ultimately it came down to what was best for me and my family. And, that was something that me and my wife, many years ago, when we started garnering some attention for different opportunities, we put together a very set criteria of what it is that our family desires and what our non-negotiables were, and the city of Boulder and, Colorado hit all those marks. And then obviously from a professional standpoint, that's a different set of criterias, and Coach Prime and the opportunity here hit that. And so, it was extremely difficult, and we had to take the emotion out of it and do what was best for our family.
Hey, Coach. Pat Graham from the Associated Press. Welcome, first of all. I'm being kind of facetious here a little bit, but how much of your success on offense is not wanting to disappoint Coach Prime?
I mean, not very much at all. I don't think anyone's going to have higher standards or expectations, for what we're going to do offensively than me. So if I can do that and meet those marks, which is going to be very hard to do, I think we're going to be okay.
Hey, Coach. Jimmy Sierfoss, 247 Sports. What does Coach Bill Boyle bring to this team?
Yeah, an identity, a temperament, and knowledge about what we're going to do, and again, the mindset of how we need to get it done.
Hi, Coach. Sean Keel of the Denver Post. I'm going to be a little less facetious than my friend here, but that'll change. Regarding this opportunity, it's unusual that someone who went to a place that's tough to win and won as a head coach, as you did, comes to a coordinator position. You've addressed that at the whys and the wherefores. But I'm curious how much autonomy was a factor in that and how much you're going to have, and if to Pat's point, if there's pressure there because you'll have that kind of autonomy with play calling, decision, the tempo, because there is you come with the style.
Sure.
Take it or leave it, and that's what people are going to presume is going to come.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as pressure, I don't think pressure is something that you feel. I think it's something that you apply. So I don't feel that. And again, I know the arena that I stepped into. I think anyone who decides to get into this profession, you know what the arena is. You know, again, that there's going to be critics and everything else that comes along with it. And again, as a play caller, I think the play caller, the quarterback get far too much praise and far too much criticism. But again, that's the arena that you step into. And either you embrace it and you accept it and you kind of put the blinders on and go. Like we were actually talking about this as quarterbacks the other day. Like you got to make a choice. Either you're going to choose to be elite and go win championships, or you can choose to, not get criticized. But you can't do both, because either way, if you're going to be elite and you're going to be great and you're going to go win championships, you're going to get criticized. If you're not going to get criticized, well, then you're just kind of hanging out in the average, and you just kind of mosey along, and none of us are here to be average.
Pat Rooney, Boulder Daily Camera. Coach, just wondering, going back to your comment about not watching film of the guys yet because you want to kind of have a clean slate when you get into practice here in a few weeks, but just curious, where'd that approach kind of get developed within you? Where'd that come from? A lot of coaches might come in and do the opposite and devour as much film as possible, but where'd your approach kind of come from?
That stems directly from Coach Babers, and I was fortunate to be with him when we got to Eastern Illinois, and we got to Bowling Green and Syracuse and all the stops that we were at, to where, again, you don't know what was being told. You don't know what was being coached. I'm not saying it's right, wrong, or indifferent, right? You don't know. And the same way that our kids don't know what they don't know right now about our style of play. And so, again, like, start fresh, have a clean slate. And as coaches, all we do is evaluate, right? So if I turn the tape on, I'm going to start evaluating. And again, I don't know what that kid was being taught, and I don't know if that's ability or thought process. So I want to start fresh and be clean, be clear, be concise about what our standards and expectations are, how we want things done. And then I'll evaluate off of that as we move forward. And I think that makes it fair for everyone. And I think that's all that we want, right, is a fair shot at an opportunity to make the most of it.
Okay, two more, Brian, go ahead.
Coach, two-part question on quarterbacks. Can you talk about playing with or working with Shedeur and how excited you are with that and what your impressions of him so far? Then also I'm curious, behind him there's very little experience, and how comfortable are you with that? And is there a thought process of maybe trying to add some experience before the season?
Yeah, I mean, again, we'll get into the work to see what we have, and I'll be able to evaluate it to know if there's any sort of movement or anything that we need to do with that. I know all the guys in the room, are doing a really good job. They're hungry to learn right now, and there's, only so much we can do this time of year until we turn the page and get to spring ball. But the things that we can do, and the way that they're being attentive, and the way that they're stealing a little extra time on their own and getting extra work, I can tell that they're excited about what we're doing, the way the things that we're implementing it, and eager to really, get to a 20-hour work week with them during spring ball and really dive into the real work that winning requires, and obviously developing them as quarterbacks and the lifestyle that is.
Hey, Coach, I know you said you haven't gotten to the film, but I just wanted to get your thoughts on Travis Hunter and how crucial of a piece he would be to your offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think when Travis was coming out, right, like well aware of him and, highly regarded as just kind of a great all-around football player. And again, great players make great coaches. And that's the reason why I'm sitting in front of you guys. I was fortunate to be around great players that bought into our vision. And the more great players that we can get, the better off we're going to be, and it kind of makes us be better coaches, So I'm excited to have him, and again, develop the other guys that are around him, and the full members of this offensive unit, and that's our job to pour into them to challenge Travis and everyone that's in the room, and support them and develop them so they can become the best version of themselves.
All right, thanks, Coach. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys.
Coach Carroll, we'll get you up here.